States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Unfortunately, we're going to move some things around on the agenda because we're waiting for Councilman Florio, who's at a water main break, and I need him on some of the discussions, especially the water district, since it falls into his category of coverage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with item number 6.
So I'm going to move that we open the town board meeting.
Very good.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
So we're going to move some things around. I'm going to start with number 6, which is the PBA contract that took us a very long time to complete, but it's finally complete. George did most of the work on it, so I'll let him carry the load of what we did. And
we did? Okay.
Yep.
So the pressure's on because Stan's here.
Yes.
So
The El Capitan.
yeah, he shows up once every 3, 4, 5 years, depending on the contract. But anyway, the PBA met, and it's my understanding the rank and file passed the MOA on the 22nd, and we're here tonight, as it says on the MOA that you have there, that we would be entertaining this tonight on May 25th. So everybody signed it. The significant things, I just turn through the PBA MOA. We had some language changes there because chief, sometimes it's hard to schedule people, so there was some changes there with people if they went out on 207C, which is a health-related problems or vacation, they would not have to go through the canvass procedure. The health insurance, we've been trying to get the police department to entertain the possibility of MVP, our high deductible health insurance, which we'll be talking about later as well. And so it's in the contract now. It's mandatory for any new hire, and that new hire has to be in the program, the MVP program, for 5 years, and then he has the option of changing and going back to the Empire Plan if he chooses to. And hopefully, because we all know that it's a relatively good program, that maybe some of the rank and file that are in the PBA now may come over as well. Because it's a good program and it's a savings for the town. Next is the longevity, which went up. This goes back to 1/1 of 22. Actually, we started the negotiations before Joe was supervisor. So we've been coming up on a year and a half negotiating this contract. So longevity goes up $50 for 2023, 24, 25, and 26. It's a 5-year agreement ending in December 31st of 2026. Uniform and equipment list. There have been a couple of things added, and this was approved by the chief. The full-time employees' base wages. This is 5-year contract starting 1/1/22. Goes up 3% that year, 3% in 23, 4% in 24, 4% in 25, and 4% through December 31st of 2026. And the listing there is of the salaries. And part-time, which we rely on. You can see the increases there. They're paid on an hourly rate. And as you can see there, starting, most of the people that we have, if not all of them, have 4 or more years. So they're going up roughly about $1 for the first couple of years, and then $1.35 and $1.40 through December 31st of 2026. And that's basically it. Joe and I negotiated it. Long, as I said, a long protracted process, but it's here, and we're recommending it to you.
Stan, one of the things I like, what I see in here is the bereavements going up by 1 day. And then MVP, there's no deductibles, no copay. I mean, we have the best probably in the state of New York medical insurance for our employees. And I'm pretty proud of that. I'm glad we do it. We can afford to do it. But good, I'm glad it's over.
Me too.
Phil? Anything?
No, I'm good. I've negotiated these contracts long-term. You guys did a good job on the negotiations, so I have nothing to add.
Okay, so then I will make the motion that we accept the MOA for the Goshen Town PBA.
Second?
You need a second?
Oh, yeah, I'll second it.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought
All in
you
favor?
said- You
Aye.
want to roll
Yeah,
call
Call
on that?
vote on this
Yeah.
one.
You want a roll call? or you
Yes.
want-
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Phil?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
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 I just, I will add that these negotiations are so difficult, so long, and so involved, so.
Well, that's why we shot for 5 years. We're a year and a half into a 5-year contract.
Already, I know it, but and it's so difficult, so, and then Doug and I used to negotiate those contracts, so I highly commend the negotiations to you and George. You did
Yeah,
a good job.
it took a long time, but I believe it went well. So, you know, it went well for the rank and file, and it went well for the town. It's a good contract.
Now, have you ratified it? I'm sorry, I
Yeah, it's all signed.
misunderstood. It was ratified,
Yep.
okay. That's great, yeah.
The procedure is they have to ratify it first.
Right.
And then it comes to the town board.
Okay, so we made the motion. Was Sal Farrow the one that was
Yes.
negotiating it?
Yes.
Okay,
Stan did most of the negotiations.
he did, okay, good.
Yeah, Brandon was here for a good portion of it. We're not, he's
I
not
had
a
to
fan
play
of Joe
locker room.
Betro.
Oh, yeah, you gotta play, yeah.
Stan, he's not a fan of Joe Betro, all right?
Oh, we haven't come to blows, but boy, we got close.
No, he's a nice guy. No, we got along well. Everything went well. All right, very good.
Oh,
Stan?
Actually, I've been dealing with Anthony Zavarro now for over 20, maybe 25 years. He's really mellowed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Compared to the way he was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty calm.
He's the
He was calm
best.
through the process.
He's the best negotiator in New York State, and if you don't believe it, he said to me,
Just ask them.
just ask me. So,
All right, well,
that's where
very
you
good.
start from.
Thanks, Stan. Thanks for everything you
Yes.
did, and thanks for the police department and everything they do for the residents of the town of Goshen.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
gentlemen.
Excellent, yeah. All right.
Well, I'm gonna flow right into the MVP plan, George. I'm gonna give it over to you again, and we'll get those out of the way, and then.
Okay.
This was 100% George. I just sat in.
Okay. Well, actually, it's
relatively simple, because if you look at the second page, I believe it was in there, it looks at the current plan. The current plan is the bronze 7, and then the one with the check mark right on top of it is also the bronze 7. And if you go down, you'll see all of the things that we have this year are essentially the same all the way through it, except the cost. And of course, the cost went up about $50,000 or 6%, as you see at the bottom, which is including the HRA. So as I said, it's relatively simple. There was a note that Christine wrote, and I think that was pretty succinct, I guess, as far as why we decided to go with bronze 7, because as you can see, there were other options there. So as she wrote here, the bronze 5 looked relatively good, because we were looking at it as it was 5%, it was 1% less. But the situation with that is the third tier drug was not a 50%. It was not a 50%. It was, in fact, it was $60 in drug costs for the Bronze 7, but the Bronze 5, if you have it, those are the really, really expensive drugs. I mean, they're thousands and thousands of dollars, and we would be paying 50% of that out of the HRA, so we decided to go with the Bronze 7. And that's basically it. I mean, there isn't really any changes except the cost.
I remember the Bronze 5 was a regional plan, not a national plan.
Yeah, that was, yeah. That was the one when we looked at the Bronze 9, where that X was there. See, was it regional?
Yeah, that's Bronze 5.
Yeah, Bronze 5.
Which was a 2% reduction, but it was a regional plan, not a national plan.
Right, which doesn't work for us at all, because that means you can't use the New York City hospitals. So
Correct.
the national network plan is much better. So that's the sum and substance of it. So again,
Yeah, it was,
I, Joe, we recommend that this be accepted.
Doug, anything?
Yeah, we went back in, I think it was 2013. We went with MVP versus night shift. Number one, it was cheaper and a whole lot better coverage. And employees are our most valuable resource. And we've had some people who needed this insurance. And it made me very, very happy through the years that we could take care of them in their time of need. So, yeah, I'm all for it. So I thank Joe and George for bringing it along.
Yeah, I just want to ask, George, I remember last time we went over this, we had an issue, and maybe you can bring me up to date as far as people being vested in the plan and how long they had to be working for us and so on and so forth. Can you bring me up to date as to what
As far as I know, as soon as you're employed full-time with the town of Goshen, you're basically covered under the MVP plan, except for well, now it's hopefully will maybe change. The police were Empire, and all the rest of the people were the MVP that were full-timers. So there really was no like 6-month hiatus or anything along that. As soon as they come on board, they fill out their paperwork, and they're
day
covered.
one?
Yeah, day one they're active. There's no,
And then as far as retirees, when they retire, I remember you had to be working here for what, 10 years before you were eligible?
Oh, yeah, that's in our hand,
Yeah,
that's
that
what it is, yeah, it's 10 years now. And then
You have to retire from the town.
Yeah.
Just,
And-
you can't just leave after 10 years.
and go into the retirement system
Yes.
and be collecting out of the retirement
So the
system.
time limit is 10 years?
10 years.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right.
And
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
want to make a motion, Rich?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we continue on with the Bronze 7 MVP plan for, starts September 1, is it? Yeah, September 1 through,
August.
August 31st of 2024.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor?
You wanna-
Aye.
Aye. You want a roll
Roll
call on
call.
that one?
Yeah, I think
Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman
Aye.
Lyons?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Okay, good job, George. This is just like the police contract. These are difficult negotiations, and there's just a lot of detail that you have to go through. Been there, done that. So, real good job, George.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna have to go to item number 1, discussion of the drainage district. We had a couple of meetings. I asked Sean to put together a background on the drainage district relative to what DEC is requesting and what we have to do moving forward. So I'm gonna turn it over to Sean, so he can explain it to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Sean?
I got it, thanks. So as the supervisor indicated, I prepared and circulated a memo to you. It really just kind of gives you a background, kind of what's required, what are your options, and how we got here. And just really to summarize, in the late 90s, federal government introduced the Phase 2 stormwater requirements, and New York State, in response to that, introduced their own general permit system in 2003. That permit system consists of a general permit for developers who have to develop a stormwater pollution prevention plan, what you know as a SWIP, to mitigate stormwater impacts. And then there's also a general permit for municipal separate storm sewer systems, MS4s, to enforce the SWIPs. The first general permit came out in, I believe, 2003. The second one came out shortly thereafter. However, the MS4 is not triggered unless a community is considered an urbanized community. So Goshen was not considered urbanized until the 2010 census, really because of your proximity to Middletown. So you were not into the MS4 program until 2013, and then not fully implemented until 2017. The reason I gave you that timeline is what happened was when the first permit came out in 2003, there was a proliferation of the development of stormwater ponds. Now they're required, developers have to put them in, but you had no enforcement responsibilities or maintenance responsibilities at that time. When you became an MS4 though, things changed a little bit. I think you had saw this coming a little bit, and you were ahead of the curve. In 2007, you started requiring developers provide you with a deed restriction, so somebody could not remove a pond or alter it, and an easement, so that if things got bad, you had the ability to enter private property and do some work, particularly if the drainage was backing up and causing damage to municipal infrastructure. Fast forward now, things are a little bit different. It is harder, it's becoming harder to actually utilize that deed restriction and easement configuration because the process is through a property maintenance process, like a code enforcement process. So for example, even if you have a deed restriction on a stormwater pond and you have a maintenance easement, you would have to go through your code enforcement official and everything that involves, going to justice court or some other route. You just can't compel that person to do it. So supervisor asked me to prepare this in terms of drainage districts because right now you have at least one petitioner for drainage district for soon, and they're here this evening, and then I think you're going to be having future ones as well, including Maplewood.
Is there, I believe that it's a requirement of the DEC, but it's not mandatory for the town to take them over?
No.
At some point?
Yes, I'm sorry. Because you're an MS4 community, you're required to review and enforce stormwater pollution prevention plans, including the maintenance of those practices in the future. How you actually do that is up to you. The DEC is not going to dictate to you that you need to have stormwater districts, but right now that's what you have. You have easements and deed restrictions. You don't have any way to recover costs if you were to repair maintenance other than going after the property.
One specific property owner that the retention pond is on.
Yes.
Right.
So that's not fair to the entire development. Brian, want to weigh in on some of this? We talked about it.
Sure.
It's on.
Okay, I've come to support the thought of drainage districts more and more over the years because I've watched the ones in some of the developments where we've put it on private property and none of them are really being maintained. So that puts us in kind of an ugly situation where we have to try and do this through code enforcement, and we're in situations now that work, if the highway department or we contracted it out, now we have to try to compel legally the homeowner to pay for that. And I think that's a very cumbersome and quite honestly ugly process that's going to cause a lot of problems. So I've come to realize as superintendent, we're going to have to deal with this sooner or later because we have to comply with MS4. Just because it's on somebody's piece of property doesn't mean the town has no responsibility because it's not being taken care of. So now we have to try to compel the homeowner to do that or forcibly go in legally and utilize that easement that we have, and then again, try to charge it to the homeowner. So I think the district is probably the best way here on forward, because we are gonna go through growth. Our community is growing quickly, and I think we just need to face it and deal with it.
Yeah, it's probably time to create the districts. What I like to do, however, is we would inspect them and see if they're doing it or not. I don't think your organization should be doing it. We should contract it out so that it's, when it gets behind, I think. Otherwise, you're gonna have to put people on and, you know what I mean?
Well, I think that's a determination that we can make going forward as to what
Right,
the most
right.
cost-effective and efficient way to handle that would be.
Yeah.
Whether it's outside labor or maybe it's a combination.
But one of the things we have not been doing, like Frank showed me, is a piece of property that was full of trees, and it should not have been trees, it was supposed to be a pond. So if we had been, 20 years ago, we should have been out there inspecting and say, hey, that's not right. And it's in the deed of these people. It's in their deeds. And so I think having this in a district makes it a little more palatable and so for the subdivision versus the person, or however we want to set it up.
Even the subdivision versus the town as a whole, because
The town as a whole would be responsible. If the DEC came in and said we had to clean these out, the entire town would be responsible. Every taxpayer would be responsible.
Yeah, if you had a fine for non-compliance or order of consent or something like that, it would be the entire town outside of the village, I believe.
So,
although if we set districts up, it wouldn't be the whole town.
But I'm talking about as it is right now.
As it is right
4 or
now.
5 retention ponds in these developments that we have. As far as Peak being one, I drive by it all the time. Right now, it is a forest blocking that guy's view from any cars on Maple Avenue. You go in there now and say, we need to clean this out. He's gonna say, there's no way you're touching my property. That
Right.
blocks all the cars I don't see on Maple Avenue anymore. But it's the retention pond for that entire development.
Yes, it is. And that's how we got to the point where we are now. And that was a betterment from where you were 20, 25 years ago.
Right.
25 years ago, that went in and you have no ability to compel that resident to do anything. At least in some of the more recent ones, you have the ability, you have a deed restriction, you have an easement if you get to that point.
Yeah.
And that don't have anything.
And that particular homeowner, that house has changed 4 times since the development went in, so he knows nothing about it at all. He
Right.
just assumed that was his property.
Right.
but these are private, so that's charged back to, it's not a total town responsibility and payment. That's charged back to whoever is responsible for cleaning it out. If it's that individual and that homeowner doesn't, and make sure he doesn't, then that's charged back to the homeowner. It's not, the cost isn't borne by the whole town on that.
My understanding is that way in the deed, but I don't know that. I haven't looked at these particular deeds.
Well, yeah, in the
Well,
subdivisions, the district goes with that parcel of property. If it's not maintained and we have to go in and maintain it, then it's charged back to that parcel of property. I think that's the way it goes.
In some instances, yes. In other instances, I'm gonna call them first generation ponds, ones that were constructed in the late 90s.
Well, that might have been years
2000s.
ago before we got here, but now,
Correct.
since I've been on the board, I know. But I'm not fighting this thing, I'm just telling you that we're under a misconception that the whole town has to pay. That's not the case. I don't know if they put it on the tax
No,
bill or how they collect from that person.
Let me clarify my statement. So
Yes.
when you asked about the whole town,
Yes.
you were talking that if something would, you have right now currently under your MS4 permit, the responsibility and obligation to inspect and compel maintenance of those facilities.
Right.
So if a facility isn't getting any attention at all,
Right,
and the DEC gets involved, they could come in and say that, to the town, what do you do?
right.
And if they feel like the town is not doing enough, it hasn't met the minimum standards of what you're required to do under your permit with them,
Right,
then they can have an order on consent with you.
fine.
And what I'm getting to is if there's any fines or fees associated with that order of consent, I believe that would be the obligation of the entire town.
Well, I think if we're responsible for maintaining and so on, it goes back to the property owner, whatever that cost is, always goes back to that property owner, because that's private. That's not a town, yeah, I mean, if they charge the town with going in and doing the work and whatever, that's fine, we have to do it, but whatever that cost is, has to go back to the property owner, the way it is now. I mean,
But I think, do you think, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just
That's
had
okay.
a thought. So are you saying that let's take for Sawyer's Peak for instance, there's a stormwater retention pond at the end of the road that services that entire hill and all those residents, 20 residents up there. If we get forced to clean that retention pond out, do you believe the owner of that piece of property is the only one that should be billed when the entire benefits the entire?
it's billed back to the owner of that property, because when he purchased that piece of property,
Indeed.
he was in the deed, and he was it was understood that he would maintain the retention pond, and if he
Yeah.
didn't, the town would come in on an easement and bill it back to him. Now, what the vehicle was for him to be able to charge the rest of the residents, I don't know. I don't know if it's by separate agreement or.
All right, can I just interject here, Phil?
Yes, no, I'm just telling you the way it is.
Sawyer's Peak
Agreeing or not,
adds kind of a wrinkle to this. Although it was the intention that there's two ponds in Sawyer's Peak, one at the end of Chestnut Ridge and one on the bottom of Valley View. Now that one services a good portion of Sawyer's Peak plus a good portion of Valley View. There are no easements filed on those catch ponds. So we have, and this is separate from some of the other ones that we've
Yeah.
done more recently.
I understand.
So that's kind of an oddball thing, but we have no right to go on their property.
Well, but you take Creamery Estates, you take Eva Estates, you take Woodland Estates, those we set up. So
Yeah, no,
that those easements are there,
Those are
and
filed.
those people are the ones who are gonna pay the freight. I mean, I have a real problem too, like Phil does, that why should all the people in the town of Goshen who don't even live on that property
Yeah.
have to start paying for it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the point probably why we should have a drainage district charging everybody in that development a certain amount every year, and that protects the town.
I don't disagree with you, I'm just, now we're gonna get to the next question.
Right.
Yeah, now we know what it is and how it is now.
Well,
The question is, if we set up a drainage district and all the people have to pay for it if we go in and when we go in and clean it. First of all, if we have to hire more people, that's a town responsibility, and that gets shared. So what Doug said about outside contract is probably the smartest
Yes.
thing to do, so the rest of the town people don't pay for the employees that they have to hire,
Right,
so
but we're
that
not-
they can maintain the district.
they're paying yearly for that in their taxes. We're setting up a district, and every year, those people are paying every year for that money to go into an escrow account at the town so that we can pay either his people or a private
Yeah, but you
person.
can't hire the people just to clean out
No,
the
no, no,
districts.
I'm not saying we have
That's
to
what
hire
I'm
people.
saying.
No,
That's what
no.
I'm saying.
I'm not saying we have to hire people.
Right.
I guess it would be broad, up to Broad at the time, if he has people that work for him already that can go clean it, he's gonna send people. If he doesn't, he's gonna subcontract out
And
to
then
somebody.
that has to be billed back to.
We're not gonna hire people just for a district.
No, no.
But you take, again,
That's what I want to avoid.
Yeah, no, I
I'm
agree.
trying to
Go
avoid.
back to the district, just like a water district or a
I
sewer
understand
district.
that, but once you hire additional people so you can do this,
yeah.
you have the additional people. You don't have a retention fund, you're still paying the additional people.
But
I-
Phil,
I- I don't
something
wanna
like
find
that would
Johnson.
happen incrementally, you know, you could take a district over,
No.
like Pursuance, and probably we could handle that.
Yeah.
Could we take another one? I don't know. Probably.
Without increased
Without
overhead.
increasing
Right.
head
But that's
count.
what I'm saying, so it's a matter of, at the time when you're ready to, as we take these over and a pond needs to be cleaned, you're gonna make a determination that, yeah, it needs to be cleaned, and I have people to do it. It's not gonna cost the town, they're already on board. Or, I don't have
Right.
people to do it, I'm gonna sub it
Right.
out to somebody.
Right,
But the money is in an escrow account.
I understand that. That's how
I just
you-
think it's unfair right now, how we were doing it, that one homeowner is gonna pick up the tab for everybody in that development.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wanna be that homeowner.
Well, then you wouldn't buy that particular lot, understandably, probably for a much cheaper price than you would normally buy it because of that, that issue. So,
Well,
I mean, there's, everything.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah, so,
But
but,
we engineered all this, again, I'm gonna go cemetery, Creamery Estates, Eve Estates, all these, when we did these, okay, the people there know they're gonna pay for it. We don't, you don't put 10 people on or 5 people on. What it is, when it needs to be done, either they do it or we contract it out and bill them accordingly.
But who do we bill?
The people living in that.
Everybody in that
No,
development?
that's.
Okay, so let's go to
No,
the
that-
next
That,
mechanic.
that isn't, I don't believe correct.
Okay.
No. So, in those subdivisions that you mentioned, so essentially, we started taking easements in 2007.
Yeah.
So
Right.
anything, Woodland, Creamery, Eva, those all have easements.
Right.
If there was an
Right.
overgrowth in the pond, highway department could enter the property, they could do
They
the work.
can.
They
Right.
incur costs, now you have to recoup those costs.
See, I'm against that.
Go ahead, and how do you
Go ahead.
recoup them?
Well, it would be just like you do with any other maintenance, right? If you have properties in the town and somebody doesn't cut their grass and you go in and you cut their grass.
Right,
However you do that, that's how you would do it.
That's how we-
I don't know
but-
how successful you would be with a $25 or $3,000 bill.
well, here's the
And I
next.
don't believe that we're capable of putting it on their taxes.
But my
Well, that's,
problem,
that's the number one thing.
but
if
Shimon,
we
here's
could.
my problem with that, okay? You may do this every 10 years. So we got people on the roll just waiting for something to go wrong versus contracting it out and then
No, but
paying for it.
the point is not to do it every 10 years, to keep it clean.
No,
Get a
no.
maintenance plan in place, keeping it clean.
But some of
Weed
these-
whacking so there is no overgrowth.
So,
Okay,
continue
well,
Go ahead.
on, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we know, or we think that we can't put it on the taxes for the people in that subdivision if we go down to recoup the cost. So what you're thinking is, we have to recoup the cost by legally somehow.
So the one property owner that has the fund.
Well, no, I'm talking about if we do a drainage district now.
Oh, drainage
Now we do a
district.
drainage district.
The drainage district is reversed, you collect the money and then do the work.
Okay, so is there any way that, now we collect in an escrow fund and keep it in the escrow fund?
Yeah.
And does that come through the taxes or how do they pay
Taxes.
that? How do they pay that escrow fund?
I'm not sure.
How do we collect that money?
I presume it's.
So it goes on their
tax
tax bill.
Like on any other district, it's on their tax bill.
It does?
Yeah.
Because my next step was gonna say, is there any way we can do a surety bond or a maintenance bond? If for some reason it's not cleaned by the district or whomever. But I don't have to go there if we.
We're collecting an escrow check every month, every year.
I just want to get to what you said,
Sure we do the
because
taxes.
there's a,
Yeah,
so if you could do that, and I don't necessarily know if you could, but if you could, then you're taking a surety against the town. You are the drainage district. You will be the drainage district. You will have complete control over that. So there would really be no need to have any security at all.
well, I'm
because
talking about the developer posting a security
this
bond,
is
like a
all
road
after the
maintenance or
developers-
something.
No, this is all
Like
after the
road
developer's
maintenance.
gone.
Okay, all right. I'm exploring ways that we could get this done and make sure that the rest of the town doesn't get stuck with the bill, that's all. You know.
I guess we need to make sure that
Okay.
it's taxable on a tax bill
Yeah,
on a yearly basis.
that's the one, so if
That
you're
is my
collecting
understanding,
escrow
but I
money,
will just confirm.
I would assume it's like the fire district, like the library
That's
district,
the
like
way
any other district.
Well, it's also
No,
not
they're-
like water and sewer, because it's not based on usage.
Correct.
It's a flat fee. That George and I have had discussions about, we need escalation clauses in that as time goes on.
Of course. But how do we establish what that cost is gonna be?
Well, that's something that I know, Sal's engineer has put together some costs. Now, those costs are mostly like estimates of having a person at a certain rate do it. That doesn't include, so we don't know if we are gonna have, as a town, any administrative costs of billing or to put that on taxes. So just like the water districts and the sewer districts, we have administrative charges for several of the employees. So we need to figure what that would be. And I think if we choose to accept this next development, then we need to take a hard look and see what the costs would be. Sean and I have had discussions about that. We felt it was a little premature at this point to spend a lot of time trying to calculate those things, but certainly as we get closer, we could.
Well, I guess what I would say is if we do decide we're gonna do it, it should be based on prevailing wage subcontracted, not on your labor.
right,
And that's absolutely perfect.
yeah, that's probably.
Just like you brought up the lawns, when somebody's grass overgrows.
Yeah.
Highway doesn't take care of that, that's an outside contractor that comes and does that. And then there's no question about the rates charged, it's
I'm
what
more
the bill.
concerned, when when I came to the town board, my first term on the town board, I got the escrow account. And we were about $10,000 in the hole because we weren't collecting escrow. And we were doing work and paying engineers. And I'm like, how could this be? This is an escrow account. So I'm really sensitive to that. I have to make sure that we can tax. If we can tax and put it in the escrow, fine. But that's something I really need to understand, right? And we all do.
Yeah,
Well, I wish Frank was here because obviously he has experience in the town of Walk Hill for how they do it.
That's exactly how they do it. They put it in their tax bill.
Yeah, that would be fine. I have no problem.
Because
with that.
you're creating a district. It's
Yeah.
no different than the library district or the fire district or any other district. It's a district that you're applying taxes to.
Well, they're not a taxing authority, we're the taxing authority, so
Correct.
we would have to.
We're assessing the taxes.
Good.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
I just want to make sure I understand. what we're
But
talking
it's
about.
going to be by district.
By
correct?
district. Every development has a district. So it'll be, the
Okay.
Pursuit is here tonight. I know again that Maplewood wanted to come in. We asked them to put it off till next
Yeah.
meeting.
Right.
And then it'll be Youngs Grove. And obviously, we have some decision making we have to do because there are some very overgrown retention ponds. This one right here is only a year and a half old at Rolling Ridge, and you can't even see it anymore.
Right, so do we have an easement on that?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
So let's go in and do it, and you hire a subcontractor and all
But
that?
that is that is part of the problem with the easement. You don't have the ability just to go in there and do that. There needs to be a process in place where you notify the person, you issue violations,
Okay,
so.
so if that's what, let's do what we have to do.
Frankly,
Get this
that's
thing
what-
clean, we have a vehicle to do it.
Yes.
Right.
Actually, you have
Yeah,
more
I
leverage in
agree.
that because in that particular case, you have not yet accepted the municipal infrastructure. And as you've done in Heritage and other developments, you won't do that presumably until that work is complete.
Can we go back to the
Okay.
developer, because we haven't taken the roads and everything else, and say he needs to
Absolutely.
clean that?
Yeah,
Absolutely. If, let's just say, Broderick and I had done punch list inspections, I think the last one we did was a couple months ago. If something else crops up in that time from,
Mhm.
that's all on the developer.
Okay.
It's incumbent
Yeah.
upon him.
Well,
to
we
get
should
in
certainly
there and
ask them
get
to
it done.
clean that, because it's on the road already.
yeah.
George, you have anything?
Yeah, I had I guess a change of heart as far as what we have done in the past and what we do now. I think that drainage districts are the way to go. I've spoken to Sean about it, Roderick and Frank, everybody seems to be on board. And even the planning board is all saying that we basically should go this way. However, I think, I didn't actually bring in the specifics thing, but we did get it, specifically now talking about pursuits. Pursuits was very, very detailed with all of the different things that were going to be in that district, which was good. But you alluded to this already, we have to check the
Yeah.
actual,
Really-
all of the ins and outs of
Yeah.
it,
Just-
what the costs are and so on and so forth, because they may be way off, they may be too high, who knows?
As Broderick indicated, we had thought that was premature, we didn't want to jump ahead of you in your decision in terms of whether you want a district. If you this evening said, we aren't interested in districts, keep it the way it is, then why am I reviewing and charging the developer? It just wasn't
Yeah.
appropriate at
That
that
makes
time.
sense.
But the mechanism, I think, going forward, and this has been in place for a while, this was in place with Rolling Ridge, when and if the planning board issues an approval for development, one of the conditions will be that the developer's gonna have to come to you and petition you for a drainage district. And the information that you are alluding to, George, is, as you know, when you form a district, there has to be a map plan report, just like when you do water and sewer districts. You're going through that right now, the consolidated. So they've given you their map plan report, and that report needs to include their estimation of costs.
And then what, they're not districts, but these subdivisions we have that have been built over the last 15 years. I just mentioned 3 on Houston Road. And we need to go back and create district for each of those.
Very difficult in that case. In that case, you need a certain number of property owners
Yeah.
to be on board for that.
Okay.
And if I'm a property owner and I don't have a pond, and perhaps I didn't buy that lot because I didn't want the pond or the
Right.
headache, I don't know if that person's gonna vote affirmatively to now start to pay for that.
Oh, okay, I see.
And then as Rod said, one other thing was the escalator. You know, when you guys are reviewing that type of thing, it should be, I think we do that somewhere like every 5 years. We take a look at it and whatever the escalating costs are because of all sorts of things.
Yeah, and I think if we do that, we need to set a specific maintenance program, a step program as to how we're going to approach caring for this district, because each developer may say you should do this, you should look at it every 2 years, every 1 year, you have to clean this out. All of a sudden, they could put a mound of things that might not be necessary for us to maintain that water district. So I think we have to set the criteria as to what we will do to maintain the water district. I think.
So the good news for you is
Yes.
you don't really have to do that, right? So when they prepare a SWIP,
Right.
that's already baked into the SWIP.
It's in there.
What you're doing is you're just, once the developer leaves, you're now taking over that maintenance responsibility for that stormwater.
But is each SWIP different, or they're all
It can-
identical?
No, it can be different.
So-
So mind, you've seen a number of different ponds, you can have different shapes, different depths, different number of ponds, different
Right,
types of ponds.
right.
So
So-
yes, they will, you're not gonna see the exact same charge in the exact same district. You can
Right.
have the same number of ponds.
Right, but we should be able to determine what we think is reasonable and what's not reasonable.
Yes. And the
Well,
state
that's all I'm
guidance
saying.
involved with that.
I see you.
Phil,
Yeah.
they've, Pursuna's included kind of a
I've seen that.
boilerplate state what the requirements are, or at least, and we can use that as a roadmap to, because some things, you know, you might be able to cover in one inspection, something you might have to come back,
Right.
or,
We just, I want to make sure we're not doing overkill and taxing the employees or whatever.
sure.
Because everything costs money, you know, something reasonable. So anyway, okay. We're good for that.
All right?
I think we need to think through, however, legally and engineering-wise, what we do with all these districts that we've created in the last decade or 2 decades. The heritage, for example, or, you know, just all kinds of them, you know?
But heritage is unique.
Well, I mean, I'm
feel
just
like I'm saying
saying-
that a lot. Heritage, you have a homeowners association, and they're responsible for that, so.
I understand it, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I'm just going through the whole potpourri of, we have different kinds.
Yes, you do.
And I think we need to sit down and ferret through all of that and see how do we do this in equitable ways and for the betterment of our community. But I think just saying, oh, we're gonna put it on the general tax roll and people ain't, you know, all these single homes, that they're gonna come back in here barking at us. Why are we doing it? Because we don't live there. We're not part of that subdivision or whatever district. Okay. I think there's more to it if
Yeah.
we ought to do what we're gonna do tonight or whatever, but I think we need to go back and study and see what we've got to deal with.
Do we have a listing of ponds?
Yes, yeah, you had asked for that, and I had followed up with Kelly. I know your office has followed up with Kelly. She has it, she's trying to kind of round it out and add to it. If you haven't received it yet, I think you'll get it next week. But yes, that is actually one of the requirements that we're required to do, is maintain a list of the ponds.
Right.
If you don't know what ponds, then Frank can't do his inspections that are required to do your MS4 permit.
Right.
So,
So we should have them, we should get an assessment of what they look like, what needs to be done to clean them up, and see how we can come in compliance, so we don't get any fines.
yes, going forward, if you decided to go with drainage districts, that does make it easier. But you bring up, and you two as well, the hard part, looking backwards,
Yeah.
particularly these places like Sawyer's Peak, where it looks like no easements were filed, you really
Right.
don't have any ability whatsoever. Perhaps Frank can look into the property maintenance code, or the New York State code, to see if there's any requirements in there. But then it's just like any other enforcement problem that you have.
So, just to add one more dimension, and then I'll move on with this thing. Because I thought about a homeowners association. Number one, can we require all subdivisions to have a homeowners association? Can we do that?
You can.
Okay.
However, I will say that may be a good option, but it may not. So for example, in the 2 places I've lived, I've had homeowners associations. In one, I had to pay dues, and the dues primarily were to utilize the pool as well as some other common fees.
Right.
In that instance, they had a very high success rate getting homeowners to pay their fees because there's a benefit. You know, you don't pay your fees, you don't use a pool. Where I live now, I have to pay homeowners just to maintain the stormwater pond.
Right.
They have a very difficult time because there's no benefit to the, anybody for the pond. So we are spend a lot of time, our HOA spends a lot of time chasing down fees. Now that you've now shifted that problem.
Right, it's the
and now what you
responsibility
do
now
is
goes on
somebody
the
just
HOA.
goes to the HOA,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a hybrid solution. It's something you could explore if you'd like.
Well, if we're collecting escrow from the homeowners and it's taxable escrow, then they have no say in it.
Correct. It's in
If they have a say in it, and we have to collect escrow, that might be one way to go, to have a homeowners association.
It may
So, I mean, I'm looking for,
Well, you run into the same issue with enforcement on HOA.
Right.
It's just kicking the can down. If they don't come up with the money, then you gotta enforce it
I
on them.
mean, the obvious one would be the tax.
Right.
If we can add it on to the tax bill for the escrow, then we're done. We know that we're.
Plus you have the money on the front end.
Well, yeah,
opposed to-
yeah, but even if it weren't, yeah, I mean, we could recoup it, but if we don't, we can't tax. We get a real issue on our hands. But anyway, okay.
Anything else?
Did you have enough?
Well, that brings us.
Hey, that was easy.
Now we get into the nuts and bolts of the hard stuff. That's item number 2. Discuss the request submitted by Chesterdale Properties LLC requesting the formation of a drainage district for pursuing subdivision.
Convenience.
There you go.
Good evening, folks. Scott Bonasek on behalf of Chesterdale. And I'm not saying a word. I think you guys all took care of it.
Yeah, right.
No, but we were here, I think we were here 6 weeks ago with the initial petition. We made our presentation.
Yeah.
As I think you all know, we've been before the board, the planning board for 15 years, some more than others, longer than others. But we're at the point right now where it looks like final approval is pretty much upon us. But the planning board's looking direction as to the district, which we've been talking about. And if not the district, we would, I won't say force, but the other option would be to do easements for the individual properties that are impacted by the stormwater and the drainage.
Right.
And we would move forward with the easements.
Okay.
So, again, I know this is a newer kind of topic for you as a town, and obviously you're kind of doing your due diligence. We're kind of at that point to see what you want to do, because that's the last kind of piece that we need as we come to the crossroads. Do we do a district, or do we do the easement route? So that's kind of where we are. If the indication is that you are inclined to potentially do the district, we would ask that you set a public hearing, because that's the one piece that you would be required to do. And just listening to your questions and your comments, as any other district, if this were to take effect, it would be a line item on the 26 property owners' tax bill. It would be a drainage district line item that they would pay as part of their property tax bill to you. Just like if you have
Okay.
a library line, water line, whatever it would be, it would just be one more line on these 26 properties. It becomes part of their tax bill to pay, and then you would take that revenue and you would book it to your particular line item on your budget, if you will.
But that's not escrow, that's line item.
It's funds that you'd have a fund, you'd have a designated fund for this particular district, you as a town.
And we could put that line item in and put it in an escrow account rather than,
When you say escrow, it's
Right.
part of your general fund. It's
Right.
itemized for I'll say the Pursuit drainage district.
So you'd have
a
A
fund.
we
fund,
can
B
maintain
fund,
that
this would be
balance.
drainage
Okay.
district.
No,
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly
That's-
right.
You know where I'm going, I just want to make
So
sure.
now that brings a question that I have.
Okay, that's
So
good.
you don't need easements when you have a drainage district? Who owns the property? Is that the town?
That is another thing that you could get into, yes. You could actually require the developer to carve out those parcels, and you would have those parcels. If the parcels have frontage on a town road, like for example, Rolling Ridge, and there's on Reading Road, in that case, you would need an easement. In the Pursuit's case, I think you would need an easement just based on where the ponds are located.
Or an easement? If it was- if it's the only access through somebody's property,
Yes.
we would still need an easement.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I think we have that, and that was one of the things we put in, it was not a district, but we, for example, again, Creamery Estates and Eva Estates and those, there's big ponds, and
Right.
we've got easements down to those, so we can clean them, or whoever
Right.
needs to clean them. So I think having that part of the district would make perfect sense. To
Mhm.
have the two together, create
That's
the
really not gonna
district, and
change.
Pardon?
The easement portion is not going to change. Whether it's private or not, we need an easement to get to that particular property anyway.
Yeah,
Unless
that's
it's
what
off
you
the
said.
main road.
Yeah,
Right.
unless it's
Yeah.
on town. road,
So,
yeah.
if the drainage district is formed, then we kick that back to the planning board. They have to decide whether easement is needed or not.
No, I think that would
No.
be baked into the review from the beginning.
Yeah,
An easement was gonna be required from the beginning, whether you, just like you had said, whether you have districts or
Right.
not.
Mhm.
And this project was set up that way anyway.
Right.
Doug, anything?
No, I think we ought to create the district, and I think we ought to have easements for, to support it, so that it works, you know, yes.
Bill?
yeah, I agree.
George?
Just one minor point, and that is, I think somebody was saying, or maybe you, Sean, that if it was by the road, you wouldn't need an easement, right? Because you can enter
Correct.
right off the road.
Yes.
However, don't you need the easement for the pond itself?
No, not if you were to set that up as a utility lot,
I see.
right? So for example, in Heritage, you have access to the wastewater pump station. That's its own lot, very small lot, it has frontage on, what road is it?
Laurel Circle.
Laurel Circle. You can just drive up, you don't need an easement, it's your lot.
Right.
So,
So with the district and the pond itself, who actually owns that?
it depends, you can do it one of two ways. You can have it as an easement over private property, or you can have it as a separate lot. I think it's almost a case-by-case basis based on the geometry of the subdivision.
So, well, since we're talking about pursuits, what about, there's gonna be 2 ponds, I believe?
Yes.
On that? So those 2 ponds
In-
will be, if we go with the district, and an easement, right? Because you said they are off the road, then who actually owns the actual ponds themselves?
The pond would be owned by that lot owner, be on somebody's lot, but you would have an easement over to maintain
Easement
it.
to
Yeah.
it, right.
Frankly, in Pursuit's particular case, they've been through the process so much, they've been preparing for easements. It wouldn't make any sense right now to make them go back and then carve out those lots and then readjust their density calculations and all that. So
Yeah.
they, Pursuit definitely should be easements.
Right.
But if you say going forward, you'd like to see as a board, less easements and more lots that are made for the town, that's something that the planning board would do as a policy and just look for that going forward.
And in order to maintain them, the town could make the decision as to who's going to maintain them at that time? Or do we have to go to someone else, property owners or whomever, to concur with that decision?
It's always easier when you're dealing with one developer who owns the entire tract of land before it's subdivided, right?
Right,
The way it works right now is towards the end of the approval process, when the planning board issues a conditional approval.
Right.
One of the conditions is to come see you within so many days, usually 90, and
Right.
petition you. So every developer for residential subdivision will come to you with a petition, just like Pursuit's did, and then you can actually do it on a case-by-case basis. It doesn't have to be a precedent that, well, we did this for Pursuit, so we have to do this for this other subdivision. But everyone will come to you. Rolling Ridge was supposed to come to you, but apparently they never did.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think there was some others over the years that had come to you. That's been a condition for the planning board for some time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of, would like to set up something where it's pretty standard so that we
Yes.
don't have to really fight each one or make a mistake on this one and not that one, or forget about something. You know, if we could sort of set a criteria to do that, you know, I think. But okay, all right, good, well, we're good.
But Sean, I think it's Eva State's got a big pond down that low part. Is that on a private property?
Yes, you own no
Okay.
lots there except for.
Okay. Well, we have some, Phil, that are pretty large,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Creamery Estates is another one that we, okay. Well, I think we need to think through that and
yeah,
have a
okay.
public hearing on how we want to do it.
We got some good answers tonight already, so.
So it appears we're looking to do a district for Pursuit.
Right.
So I think, Scott, you said, is our next step
Well, it would be a public hearing.
to?
You guys would do a
Public
motion
hearing.
to send it to a public
Approve the
hearing.
formation of the
Yeah.
district,
Right.
and then set a public hearing.
And then,
Right.
and then,
Yes?
the second company would have to, what?
So my suggestion
Sorry.
is, you're not formally approving it, the indication of what
Right.
you're inclined right now, that you want to consider it further, set the public
Public
hearing.
hearing,
Yeah.
right, first.
And then depending on what the outcome is at that point,
That's-
you would take an official vote on it.
Right.
Don't we need to know, though, for that public hearing, how we're going to manage? Is it private property with easement, or relative to how?
Private property and easements, and then you have a drainage district and that revenue to do
There
maintenance
we
of
go.
that in the future.
Right.
The easements will be in favor of the town, so the town can access them to
Right.
do the work, or the town's contractor.
I'm with that.
And that information is kind of memorialized in what we've submitted to you as a town, the petition and the map plan report. That all kind of lays out what this project, what we're requesting by way of district.
Right.
Sounds good.
So we don't need any more information in order to set the public hearing.
That's for you to answer your own question. I think we've given you enough if you had specific questions, but no, I don't think you necessarily, you had the information, I
It was
think.
very detailed.
That you're-
We do,
that you-
we do, we have.
Yep.
All right, so you know what, I'm gonna make a motion that we set a public hearing for when?
Mary, with
June
date,
22nd,
30 days.
gives us enough time.
As June 22nd, at 7 PM or any time thereafter.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. And then, Sean, I think we need to go back, figure out what we created over the last 10 years, and figure out.
That's the hard part.
I know, but I think we're gonna need to do that, maybe.
It's very cumbersome, so we have to really look at that. And then talk to Sean about that, because when I looked at it, I'm like, when I do that.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, it was really intense. We'll talk about that.
I'm sorry, I missed the motion for the public hearing. Sorry.
It was made by Phil and second.
June 20.
Second by George, and all in favor were ayes.
And it's on the 22nd.
More than,
Yeah. I know the date. What?
Do the replay?
Replay. Rewind, Jose.
Are you good now, Mary?
Throw the red flag.
You got it? June 22nd, 7 PM, or anytime
Okay,
thereafter.
okay.
we'll see you guys on the 22nd. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Enjoy your holiday weekend.
All right, moving on. Discuss introductory law number 3 of 2023, a local law amending the Town of Goshen zoning code, Article 7, Section 97-55 F13. This is an amendment to allow the town board to, at its discretion, make the decision on whether they accept a cash bond or a surety bond.
That's
Yeah.
correct. That's correct, yep.
We have to set a public hearing, right?
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And there's 239 referral that would go out with that, which sort of come back on the planning board end. Well, at least
I just
related to
sent
that
I just
project.
sent it to Kelly. I got it back from
I-
Orange
I
County
see,
Planning
see.
on Monday, I believe.
Yeah.
Sent it to Kelly.
So, you could go either out to that, well, assuming that it goes forward, I don't want to jump the gun,
Well,
but.
where do we stand on there? Where are they in the planning process? Are they close to?
Right.
You just sort of, well, you're, I believe, considering all the changes, your code, you're
Mhm.
doing it for one applicant, but it changes.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That applicant is, they completed their public hearing, they are on for an amended resolution I see on your agenda next.
Yep.
So they are essentially,
Oh, so, do we do it on the 22nd?
Or the 8th.
Yeah, I mean, that would be two public hearings on the same day. I don't know.
All right, so we do it on the 8th. I mean,
Sure.
George is not
It's
gonna
up
be
to you.
here, but,
Oh, yeah. It's up to you guys.
I mean,
We can do 2 public hearings.
Yeah, we can do 2 public hearings, that's not a big deal.
22nd?
Should be pretty quick.
Yeah.
okay.
Now, are all the other approvals in before we go out to the public on this thing? Is
The
there
only
anything
thing
else?
we have left is the next thing that we're gonna approve.
The DEC or any of that
So
stuff?
it's gonna go out for.
I'm sorry, I was having a sidebar.
Phil has asked the question of any other approvals pending.
Like the DEC
or
and all that
anybody
stuff,
else.
before we go out and do this, change the law of the town, are there others?
Yes, and there always are. Your approval is 99 times usually the first approval in terms of the town, and then they go out and get their outside agency approvals. I don't know where they are with the DEC. They had discussed it, but I'm not sure if they completed that. I don't know if they're gonna need a driveway permit from the highway superintendent, things of that nature. But they are very far along.
And they're having some resistance from the school district right now on establishing a pilot meeting, so not resistance that they don't wanna do it, just that they're busy and wanna wait till the end of the school year.
Yeah, so you understand, I don't wanna change town law and find out that it doesn't apply because they don't have all their
Just
approvals. They just wanna make sure.
for what it's worth, I mean, it's the potential of the change of the town law is not specific to this applicant. It just was raised or brought to the attention by that applicant. So even if it is changed, it still leaves the discretion to act to the board. So it's really kind of a
Yeah, but this, you're
esoteric.
doing this and trying not to set a precedent on this. That was my biggest concern.
I'm adamant that
before.
there's no precedent being set,
Yeah, right.
but
Right,
I understand the
right,
concern.
yeah.
I just
I
want to
have
put
no
that at
problem.
ease.
Let's just go on then.
Yeah, and listening to Ryan last time, I think they're pretty much, everything is done with DEC, it's just preliminary right now that they're going through.
Well, I mean, we're putting it out 6 weeks. There's a couple referrals that have to go on along with it. So the 6 weeks I think we can use, plus we're not doubling up on the public hearing if the board chooses.
So can you get us a
Yeah.
status on all the outside agencies and where he is?
Sure. They got plenty of time to
So
do it.
you wanna set a public hearing for June 22nd?
Sure.
Can I get a
Where are we
motion to
going
set a
at?
public hearing for
Going out one
warrant
more
number
time
for June 22nd?
So moved.
Second,
Yeah, I want to go.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Rory,
Yes.
Hello.
pilot agreement,
I got
Yes.
a motion.
town of Goshen.
George made the motion, I seconded it.
I'm sorry.
We voted.
Doug, just 1 second. I couldn't.
Sorry.
Go ahead. The
Well,
pilot agreement?
Yeah, I'm looking on page 10. It says, prior to signing the plat for the planning board chairman, the applicant shall negotiate and execute a pilot agreement with the town of Goshen.
Mhm.
We've always done the town of Goshen, the school, and the county all in the same meeting.
Right.
All right,
And-
we move to the
and
next
and I
agenda
wonder if
item.
we can do that, you know?
Well, it is the next agenda, Ryan.
Next agenda.
Let me just open it and then we can go to you, Doug. So,
Okay.
review and approve the amended resolution, the conditional approval special permit for Altruist Solar LLC. Go ahead, Doug. Now you can
Okay,
ask
well,
your
that
question.
was my question on this one.
So I can give you an answer, you know, I've already spoke to them, the village is set to meet, we're set to meet, the county is set to meet, we're waiting to hear from the school district, that's it.
Oh,
And the school district hasn't
The
responded.
village needs to be part of
He
this?
meant school.
I'm sorry,
school, yeah.
It's the town, county.
the town, the county, and the school.
Right.
Okay, I'm just going back to when John McCary, he used to chair that, and we got all in one room and we didn't leave until we had the answers. And,
Yeah,
Well,
that's
there's
what
been a
our
lot
intent
done
is.
via email. I mean, there's been communication done via email.
Got an email today from Ryan saying that, you know, myself and Rick Golden are ready to go.
Yeah.
And we're just waiting for the school district to comply. We have a date, it'll happen probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And we'll sit down, it should be quick, hopefully.
it just makes it so much cleaner.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you need from us right now?
A motion to approve the amended resolution.
Motion to approve the amended resolution?
Yeah, I'll make
George? Second?
I'll say, okay.
Go ahead.
I got
Doug seconds it.
Yeah.
Phil, do you have anything?
No, we're good.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Sorry.
So I think I do remember getting an email or something saying that the county wants nothing to do with any negotiating, like McCary did for us.
Yeah.
They don't want to
Yeah.
negotiate the pilot.
Any
Correct.
negotiation, but they're gonna be at the table.
They're gonna be
They
at the
need
table,
to,
right?
they need to have representation there to
Yeah.
say, here's what we want, or here's what we're willing to give, or whatever. Yeah, where John used to chair it, well, he's not here anymore, we have the assessors upstairs of our own.
Okay.
And, okay.
Mr. Supervisor, if you don't need any more.
Nope, thank you very much, Sean, appreciate it.
Everybody.
Good night, Sean.
So I guess the follow-up to that is who's gonna be kind of in the know there as far as what we should be charging?
Our assessment. Alan will take care of it. Yeah, and I'll go to the meeting and I'll have Alan there with me.
I think real property is gonna be there.
Paul,
too.
Paul Wiley does most of the work.
Yeah,
Yes.
Paul will be there from real property.
The main thing is the schools, the the one that wants it all going to them and less to us,
You're gonna get it all.
then that's the way it's been.
Yeah.
We need to be prepared for that.
Think they get enough money?
Oh, yeah.
Them and your other agency whose name we will refrain from saying. All right, next item on the agenda, introduce local law number 4, 2023, a local law amending chapter 28, planning board of code, of the code of the town of Goshen to amend provisions relative to alternate members. So it's a provision that we're looking to adopt that does not allow alternate members to be part of the day-to-day negotiations and discussions on the planning board. They're there to serve as an alternate if somebody doesn't come, and if they are in the audience, they have no say in the meeting.
Just for my 2 cents, it's drafted by Kelly. I reviewed it for what it's worth. It makes sense to me. It seems pretty practical. It was drafted
Yeah,
fine, so.
it's just getting confusing because now we have multiple
Right.
alternates and they're
Yeah.
starting to ask questions from the floor, and the discussion should be on the dais, not on the floor.
Okay.
This is something that's Lee brought up, and
Okay, I understand now.
So we have a set of public hearing,
Yeah, it's got,
Yes.
yeah.
so is the 22nd good?
I would think that one could be piled on there too, because I don't think there's gonna be a huge.
I don't think there'll be a lot of discussion on that.
Do you really need a resolution? Can't the chairman say that there's
No,
no
because
place
No, it's
in
a
our
local
town?
law. You're amending the code. It's a local law, so, yeah.
Our law currently states that anybody that is on, including alternates, can speak.
Okay,
Right.
got it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, that's good.
But I'm not-
So can I get a motion to set a public hearing for June 22nd?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at 8,
Town board minutes.
right? Review and approve the May 11th town board minutes. I looked at them, I didn't see anything
Yeah.
shot out at
I
me.
didn't see anything.
I see it.
Can I get a motion to approve? Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That was easy.
There's a letter that we received from the DEC, basically information, but the Orange County landfill it was, right? They reclassified the landfill.
Yep.
And the reclassification is that it is,
C4 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I can't believe that happened, but I guess.
I guess there's
I'm
no,
sure they're still
I guess
looking
there,
into the walk hill.
I guess there's no leachate, hardly any leachate coming out of it. I think it's just,
I'm amazed, okay?
so no organics are decomposing. There's no more methane coming out of the stacks.
Wow.
I don't even know how long it's been capped, but as long as I can remember.
15 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
20, I think, yeah. Well,
And that was expanding into the Walk Hill River because of the weight at one time.
Maybe we used
The
to,
Walk Hill River narrow, I don't know.
It went from a class 2 to a class 4.
Yeah, 4. Okay.
All right.
I remember.
Good, okay. Discuss and approve a motion to authorize the supervisor to pay accounts payable check run for May 25th, 2023 in the amount of $210,122.75.
so moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Discuss and approve a budget transfer requesting by Christine Cavallari for 12/31/2022. She's asking for 2022.
Yeah, it was to close out 2022.
Correct. Any questions on it?
Nope.
Do you have that motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That was a lot of work on her part to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of pages.
All right, discuss and approve the budget transfers requested by Christine Cavallari for 5/11/2023. The budget transfers are long list of them. Do I have that motion?
Yes, so moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have 2 informational items.
Yep.
Christine Cavallari conducted an accounts payable audit for May 11, 2023. It's attached, as well as an accounts payable audit for May 25th, 2023. That's also attached. All right, with that being said, opening up the privilege of the floor, anybody would like to speak?
Got a question, Joe. I missed the last meeting. Are you aware of any change in the status as regards Amy's?
The only change in status that I have from them that they came in and made a presentation to us is they're looking at, they had a change of their line. It went from, originally what were they going to do, Doug? They were going to
Well, they were gonna put 2 soup lines in.
soup lines in.
And they're talking 27?
Right, well, it changed from the pizza line to 2 soup lines, so it's a changing of all the equipment. They're looking to break ground somewhere at the end of 2026 and be operational by 2028, as of today.
That's
the
as
plan.
of today, it's current?
That's the plan as of last time they were here. So they are doing work out there, there are people out there. I am flying out to see them in, it's gonna be the end of, we're supposed to go out June 11th, but something personal has come up. It's gonna probably go the end of June. They're expecting us.
The reason I ask is supposedly on good authority, there was a statement that they're shutting down.
Yeah, I don't know what, I mean, they came in, they spoke to the board here, so.
Yeah, I know, I
made
was
a
here,
presentation.
yeah.
I mean, I can only go by what they tell us. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, they're, 2 weeks ago, I got a call saying that, you know, they saw a religious group out there and that's who's buying it, you know. I can only go by the information we have, though. I mean, as of right now, they're opening up in 2028. That's what they're giving us.
That's what Andy said.
Yep.
He owns the company, so.
Yep. Okay.
I'm gonna try to get more information when I'm out there, and, you know, I know that they're specifically, they've done some things in their corporation which I think are smart. You know, they sold off their buildings and now they're renting them back, so it frees up cash flow for them. They've also sold off they're looking to sell off part of the company to a large firm. So they're doing things to solidify their company. People saying they're in trouble, I don't see them being in trouble. Their sales are through the roof, still the #1 organic food producer. So
I think one of the other escalation of cost of building things has been on their minds all along as well.
Yeah.
if they would have built this in 2017,
Right.
it would be 1/3 the cost it's costing them today.
Yeah,
And steel would be much more readily available.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem.
yeah.
Anybody else?
Well, as a representative, or at least a member of Heritage, obviously we have some interest in retention basins and their maintenance and their costs. I'll see if I can generate some enthusiasm for looking at this in detail at the HOA board level. Just information.
That would be good.
Anything else?
Memorial Day Parade.
11 a.m.
11 a.m., step off is 11 a.m. on the Monday the 29th.
Yep.
And then there could be, at 7 o'clock in the morning, there's gonna be some, I guess.
At the cemetery?
Cemetery.
Yeah, and then it goes to Village Square, or don't they do a presentation, doesn't
No, that's
Cluster
it.
meet after that?
After the parade.
After the parade,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
sorry.
But at 7 o'clock in the morning, all the veterans
Yeah.
organizations are, each of the places that the cemeteries are gonna be,
That have veterans on
yeah.
I'll be there. Anything else, anybody? All right, can I have a motion to close the May 25th, 2023 meeting? Second?